Hey, happy Friday, everyone. It has been one heck of an awesome week. I launched a brand new program yesterday evening for moms and teens, and my DMs have been blowing up, both on Instagram and Facebook with interested parents, and I am so grateful and so blessed to be able to offer help to parents and teens. So awesome. So the topic that I wanted to talk about today is a little bit more on the serious side, and hence I had the warning out there, trigger warning, about sexual assault and rape, because I will be discussing those topics briefly. So if this is something that you can't handle hearing about, obviously I'm not going to go into any graphic details or anything like that, but if this is something that you can't really stomach, I'd suggest you stop this video. But I think it's important to hear. And so the topic of this video, I want to ask, are you making this mistake with your teen? This is the biggest mistake that I see parents make with their teenage children. Daughters especially get this one a lot. And this is actually even a big mistake that my own parents, specifically my mother, made with me. And so that's why I really wanted to bring this up and talk about it today on this live. I've seen this with other clients that I have starting to make these same mistakes, or that, have had this same thing happen maybe with their parents, and that's kind of like passed down. So I just felt this was just so important to talk about. So I'm going to talk about it today. So the mistake that I'm referring to is the habit that parents have of taking events that have happened to them, and in such it actually comes from, it's not coming from a bad place, right? It comes from the parent's heart of not wanting their teenager to have the same really negative experience that the parents had, or that the parent had. And so the parent becomes hyper vigilant, very overprotective, almost to the point of smothering in some cases, not all. The parent is, let's say, like, just not trusting of the kid, and like is kind of like on the alert that the child like does not feel safe talking to the parent, because they feel like they're going to get accused of something that they're not even doing, or is like not even on their radar. So I'm going to start with my own story of kind of how this happened with me and with my mother when I was growing up, and then I will share some bits and pieces from various clients, obviously keeping all their personal details 100% confidential. So in the case of my own mother, so my mother had at a point when she was a teenager, and I can't tell you exactly what age she was, because my mom's not alive anymore, so I can't verify. So I think she was 16 or 17-ish, right? And she went to a party, and at the party, she was gang raped, actually by a group of males. She did not go to this party looking to be unsafe. She went to this party with friends, looking to have fun with friends, a group of friends, just like any other teenager would do. Unfortunately, for her, she was gang raped at this party. It affected her and her ability to trust people for the rest of her life. My mom died when she was 42. But, from the story I heard, when she came home, obviously this traumatic thing had happened to her, and she had talked to her own mother about it. Like, her mother was less than sympathetic, and, she didn't get any mental health care, anything to help her deal with this very traumatic event. And so my mom didn't really have the coping skills with that thing. And when I became a teenager, my mom became incredibly hyper vigilant with me and constantly accusing me of things and, you know, putting myself in situations. And she was so accusatory towards me that she actually drove me to do probably things that I wouldn't have done and put myself in situations that made me susceptible to rape and sexual assault that I probably wouldn't have necessarily otherwise. But because I didn't feel like I could talk to my mom about anything without being accused of something, like I didn't talk to her, right? I didn't tell the truth when she asked me what I was going to go do or what friends I was going to be with or whatever. And the reason I didn't tell the truth is because I knew that I was going to get accused of something regardless of what I was doing. And so in her desire to protect me from the event that happened to her, she actually made me much more susceptible to something like that or similar happening to me. And the same thing didn't happen to me that happened to my mother, but similar types of things happened to me that happened to my mother because of that, right? So she was so wanting to be hyper vigilant and to protect me, but she drove a wedge and no communication there. And kind of that actually made me put myself in risky situations. And I, you know, had to live with the consequences of putting myself in those risky situations and choices that were made and things that happened. And so this is so important for parents, especially parents that have had trauma, to not get to the point of being hyper vigilant and like hovery and like attacky at your kid and like constantly looking for evidence, because it is going to drive them away from you and they are actually going to go towards doing the things that will put them in danger that you're actually trying to protect them from. I have another client, and the mom was sexually assaulted as a teen, and she, you know, through the coaching we kind of worked through, she was kind of also having this really hyper vigilant, you know, kind of all up in the business, like, you know, kind of judgy sort of thing going with her daughter. And, you know, we talked about that and everything. And she was just like, I just don't want what happened to me to happen to her. And I was like, absolutely. I totally get that, right? Like nobody wants their child to deal with, you know, traumatic things like that they had to deal with. But she noticed that like her daughter didn't talk to her. They didn't have conversations. They didn't, you know, because her daughter was, and, you know, as I coached the daughter was like, I can't really talk to my mom because my mom doesn't listen. And, you know, she just wants to butt in and tell me how she thinks things are. And so I just don't talk to her. Right. And so like I had talked to the mom about this, but the cool thing is working with coaching with the daughter, because I see the teens weekly and moms bi-weekly. And with the daughter, we had actually worked through some of the challenges she had communicating with her mom and got her to a point where she was like, okay, where she found a way that, you know, we worked through finding a way where she could say, all right, mom, like, I want to talk to you. I want to let me say my piece. And like, mom, you keep it zipped until I'm done. Right. So like, you actually really hear me, hear my emotions and all this stuff. Right. So the really cool thing was like, they actually had this conversation. And I heard from my client that it was like for the first time in like a couple of years that her and her daughter had like a really good heart-to-heart conversation, had really spent really good bonding one-on-one time. So they thanked me so much for the coaching and working with both of them because, you know, they were just kind of like going through the default of what happens when, you know, you have a hypervigilant parent and then you have the teen kind of like, okay, I just want to, like, I don't want to get accused of stuff. I don't want, you know, like, I just want to kind of like do my thing. You know, like the child wants, even though they're 17 or they're 18 or they're 16 or they're 15 or whatever teenage age they are, and you think, oh, they're so grown up now, they have a job, they, do their thing, they drive now, blah, 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 I feel like they don't need me. Your teen still does need you, and they do still miss like being able to snuggle with mom and being able to have these sweet heart-to-heart conversations with mom. What pulls them back from that is when they feel like they're going to be judged or that they can't talk to you because they're going to get a big lecture or something like that. That's when they pull away, and they're not going to tell you this. The thing is, they're not going to tell you this, right? But that's one of the reasons they pull away, and they're just like, I'm good, I'm a grown up, I don't need you. They really do want the hugs and snuggles and stuff like that, but they don't want the lectures, right? They don't want the accusations. They don't want that stuff, right? They want like loving acceptance, a kind ear, like that parent, not the judgy, lectury, if you don't get these grades, you're gonna have to do manual labor for the rest of your life, or whatever it is parents say these days. Like, they don't want that, right? They just want the love and the acceptance that they had when they were little, even though they're a teen now. So they do still need you. Don't think because they're not talking to you that they don't need you, because they do, okay? But just do not make the mistake of projecting any traumatic stuff that you had happen to you onto them, because you will drive them away. You will drive them into a situation that lines up with the situation that drove you into the traumatic event that you ended up with. And, that's what you're going to do. So don't do that. Be open, be loving, be an ear, not a lecturer, not a voice who, tells them they can't do things, or, oh, well, you can't do that, that's not realistic. Be that person who encourages their dreams and is open and listening and encouraging and showing them how amazing they are. Not the one lecturing, putting them down, or putting pressure on them. So that's what I have for you. That's the wisdom I have for you today. And I just felt it was so important to share, because I just see parents making this mistake. It's a huge mistake, and it can really actually lead to your teen ending up in a trauma-filled situation because of that projection, and because of that pushing. They do actually end up just kind of going down that road anyway. So I launched a new program for teens and moms last night. I've already had amazing response from that. It's a 4-month program. There is a huge bonus, and I'm not going to tell anybody what it is. The people who message me or talk to me about it, I'm telling them what the bonus is for the first 5 enrollees. But let me just tell you, it is something that I won't be doing again. It is something that is hugely valuable. And so if this is something that you think could benefit you and your teen, send me a DM and let's talk. We can set up a time to talk and answer all your questions over Zoom or over the phone. And let's get you in there, because you really want to be one of these first 5 enrollees. I already have 2 people who said they've committed. They haven't given their deposit yet, but they said they're committed. So really, as long as they follow through, that's really 3 spots left. So jump in. Do not hesitate on that, because you won't see the bonus again. Anyway, super excited to share this message with you. Super excited for all the moms and teens whose lives are changing with this work. And super excited to see what our wonderful teens create for us, for our world in the future. Lots of love to you. Have a wonderful weekend. DM me if this is something of interest to you.